There was a very simple man who decided to live a hermit life high atop of a mountain, all by himself. Built a little hut on the side of the mountain. He was a woodworker, and he would make some wood crafts and then go into town and sell what he had made. He lived very simply, no phone, no computer. The only modern accessory he had was a little beat-up old car, an automobile that he took down to town once a month to sell his woodwork and to get some supplies to take back up to his little shack on the top of the mountain. He was happy living this hermit life. And then one day, there was an avalanche. A bunch of stones came falling down, and he ran into his house, and he went to his little kneeler that he had built, and he prayed that God would spare his house. And sure enough, after the avalanche, he went out, and his house was fine. But there was another problem. There was a huge boulder right in the middle of the road, as big as him, blocking him and his car from going onto the road and into the town. He was trapped up there. And so he began to push at the boulder to try to get it off the road. But it wouldn't move. It was as big as him. And as much as he pushed and strained, he made no progress moving the boulder. So he went back into his little house, and he went to his kneeler again, and he prayed, "Lord, please move that boulder for me. Get rid of that obstacle." And he went back out, and the boulder was still there. And he pushed at it again, but nothing happened. Weeks went by, his supplies running dangerously low. And he did this day in and day out. By day, he would go out and push at the boulder again and again. And then he would go back at night and go to his kneeler and pray, "God, please deliver me from this obstacle." Weeks went by, seemingly no progress. And then one day, he was pushing at the boulder, and it budged. It moved just a little bit. And this woodworker grew excited and pushed some more, and found that he was inching it off the road. That night he went back to his room, and he prayed harder than ever that the Lord would deliver him from this obstacle. He went back out the next day and was able to push it some more and more. The progress continued until finally he got the boulder completely off the road, was able to be free. He and his vehicle could go back down into the town, and he would be able to live and get his supplies. He was excited. That evening, he went into his little room in the house, took off his shirt and looked in the mirror. He was different. He was built now for a hermit. He was muscular, jacked up. Looked at his chest and his arms. They had changed in the course of this adventure. And then he realized what was happening, that every time he pushed against the boulder, something was happening. Even though the boulder looked like it wasn't moving, and maybe it wasn't, he was changing. He was growing stronger with every push. And so he needed to push and to strain. Even on those days when it seemed like nothing was happening, something was in fact happening. He was changing and growing stronger and stronger until God used the man himself to answer his own prayer and be free. And that little story, that little parable, says much about prayer, I think, because prayer is sometimes like pushing at a boulder. Pushing again and again, and we might pray and think, what am I doing? Nothing's happening. God isn't listening. Nothing is changing. But as we are pushing and straining in prayer and trying to be faithful to it day after day, we are changing. More than God needing to change, we need to change. And sometimes that's what's happening in prayer. We are becoming different with every prayer we offer to the Lord. To take one area where this happens, consider jealousy and competition. We're kind of prone to these things, I think. It's very easy to look around and compare ourselves to others, to get jealous of what another person has when I don't have it. But to look at Paul's absurd example, right? Could a foot be jealous of a hand? Could an ear be jealous of an eye? He creates that very absurd example so we will look and see that we are all one body. And if a part of the body is doing great, we should all celebrate that. It's not a competition. We don't need others to fail so that we look better. We're brothers and sisters. We're all part of the body of Christ. And prayer helps us to see that. When we go off to prayer, we gain perspective. We might go off to prayer being very angry with someone or jealous of what they have. And in prayer, the Lord can soften our hearts and help us to see the truth. That if my brother's doing well, it is good for me and for our world. Because we are all one body with Christ as the head. In the gospel, Jesus reads from Isaiah and reminds us that he came to give sight to the blind. He came to set souls free. And one of the ways he does this is to free us from jealousy and competition, which are just not helpful when it comes to the spiritual life. Prayer helps us to see the truth. It helps us to be free and to enjoy the success and the gifts of the brothers and sisters that are around us. Maybe that's why we need prayer so badly. Not so much to change God or to change God's mind. We need ourselves to be changed in prayer, that we can grow stronger with every prayer we utter, that we might learn to see as God sees. We may learn to be free and allow the Lord to move those boulders that are in our lives, the obstacles that block us from freedom and keep us from being children of the Most High God. May God give you peace.